Why do the kindest people always attract the most ruthless pain? Have you ever asked yourself that? You sit awake at 2 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, wondering what you did wrong. You gave them chances. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. You poured water into their empty cup until yours was bone dry. And what did you get in return? Disrespect, disregard, disdain. You have been told your whole life to be a bigger person, to kill them with kindness, to take the high road and turn the other cheek. Let me tell you something right now. That is a lie. It is a beautiful, comforting, and incredibly dangerous lie fed to you by people who want you to remain compliant. Every time you swallow your anger to keep the peace, you lose a piece of your soul. You walk on eggshells in your own house, in your own workplace, in your own life. You rehearse conversations in the shower, hoping to finally find the magic combination of words that will make them understand your value. But they do not want to understand. They want to consume. You are exhausted, aren't you? What are you losing right now by playing nice? You are losing your dignity. You are losing your time. You are losing the quiet, sacred peace of your own mind. Today, that stops. We are not here to talk about healing them. We are here to talk about armoring you. I am going to show you exactly how to build a psychological fortress so absolute, so uncompromising, that a manipulator will take one look at your eyes and walk the other way. This is not about being cruel. This is about being untouchable. Let us start with the foundation, the absolute bedrock of your new life. The core rule is this: your no must be a complete, impenetrable sentence. It requires zero justification, zero apology, and zero negotiation. Read that again in your mind. No. That is the whole word. That is the whole sentence. But here is the trap. This is where the masses fail, and this is where you have been failing. The trap is the insidious disease to please. When a toxic person crosses your line, what do? You say no, but then you immediately follow it with a because. You explain. You rationalize. You write them a 3-paragraph text message detailing exactly why you cannot do the thing or why their behavior hurts you. You think you are communicating. You think if you just explain your boundaries clearly enough, they will finally respect them. Would you believe me if I told you that over-explaining is the exact moment you lose? The psychology of a manipulator is predatory. When you explain your no, you are not giving them context. You are handing them a blueprint of your insecurities. You are giving them a list of objections they can argue with. You are essentially telling them, my boundary is up for debate. Please convince me otherwise. The slow collapse of your self-esteem happens in these exact moments of negotiation. You give an inch of explanation, and they take a mile of your sanity. Think of your boundaries like a heavy steel bank vault. When the bank manager locks the vault, at the end of the day, there is a loud, definitive click. The vault is shut. The vault does not tape a note to the front door explaining to the robbers why it is locked. It does not apologize for being made of steel. It simply exists, unbothered, protecting what is valuable inside. Your energy, your time, your peace, that is what is valuable inside. Stop sliding notes under the door to thieves. Here is the hard truth you need to swallow today. A toxic person's confusion about your boundaries is not your responsibility to cure. If they do not respect you, your explanations will just sound like weakness. You do not explain the light to a person who chooses to live in the dark. You just let it shine. So, what is your execution plan? What must you do today to enforce this? Look at your phone. Look at your recent messages or emails. The next time someone who consistently drains you asks for something or pushes a line you have drawn, you are going to practice the art of the cold stop. You will reply with, no, I cannot do that, or that does not work for me, full stop, period. Send the message and put the phone down. Do not type another word. Your palms might sweat. Your heart might race because you are terrified of their reaction. Let them react. Let them be angry. Let them throw a tantrum. Their emotional regulation is not your job. Write this down on a piece of paper today. My silence in the face of their demands is my power. Start wielding it. Let us move to the second pillar, of your new psychological fortress. This is the one that is going to hurt to hear because it attacks the very core of your empathy. The core rule is this: stop trying to heal people who are addicted to their own poison. You have a good heart. That is your greatest asset. But in the hands of a manipulator, your good heart is a loaded weapon pointed directly at your own head. You are suffering from the savior complex. When you look at a toxic person, you do not see the disrespect they show you. You see the trauma that caused it. You look at their chaotic, destructive life and you tell yourself, if I just love them hard enough, they will finally change. If I am patient enough, they will see my value. This is the trap. This is the slow, agonizing collapse of your spirit. You are bleeding yourself dry to fix someone who actually enjoys watching you bleed. The psychology here is brutal. Toxic individuals do not want to be saved. They want to be accommodated. They want a shock absorber for their reckless behavior. And you have volunteered for the position. You absorb their anger, their neglect, and their drama, falsely believing that your sacrifice will eventually buy their loyalty. But what really happens? They do not get better. They just get comfortable. And you become a hollow, exhausted shell of the person you used to be. Think of this dynamic like trying to rebuild a shattered pane of glass with your bare hands. You kneel on the floor, picking up the sharp, jagged edges. You try desperately to force those pieces back into a perfect, flawless window. What happens? Does the glass magically fuse back together? No. Your hands just get cut to ribbons. You are kneeling in a pool of your own blood, the pain is unbearable, and guess what? The window is still broken. You cannot repair someone else's brokenness by destroying yourself. You cannot put out their internal house fire using your own tears. Here is the absolute truth you need to brand into your mind today. You cannot save a person who has made a comfortable home out of their own misery. You cannot perform CPR on a relationship that the other person is actively trying to suffocate. Not for them, not for the world, but for you. So, what is the execution plan? How do you stop this today? You need to resign. You need to officially quit the job you were never hired for. Today, I want you to take a pen and write down the name of the person you have been trying to fix. Underneath their name, write these exact words: their healing is not my responsibility. When they call you with their next manufactured crisis, you are going to practice emotional detachment. You will not offer solutions. You will not offer to intervene. You will simply say, I am sorry you are dealing with that. I hope you figure it out. And then you step back, stop picking up the glass, let them deal with their own broken pieces. Now we enter the battleground of your own mind. This is the third rule of your unshakable fortress. The core rule is this: never, under any circumstances, hand a toxic person the currency of your emotional reaction. Your emotions are your wealth. Stop spending them on people who are bankrupt in character. What is the trap here? The trap is your innate human desire to be understood. When a manipulator insults you, dismisses you, or gaslights you, a fire ignites in your chest. You want to yell. You want to cry. You want to show them the depth of the pain they just caused. You desperately believe that if they truly see your tears, a switch will finally flip in their cold hearts. You think your visible suffering will trigger their dormant empathy. That is a fatal miscalculation. That is the slow collapse of your personal power. Do you know what they actually see when you break down? They do not see pain. They see a puppet on strings. They see that they pushed a specific button and you reacted exactly as programmed. They do not care about your tears. They only care about the absolute control those tears represent. Think of a toxic person like a stray fire in a dry forest. What does a fire need to survive? It does not need to be understood. It does not need an apology. It does not need a long, drawn-out conversation about your feelings. A fire only needs one thing to stay alive: oxygen. Your emotional reaction, your anger, your fierce defense, your weeping, that is the oxygen. Every time you scream back, you are fanning the flames. Every time you send an angry, emotionally charged text message, you are pouring gallons of gasoline on a fire that is actively trying to burn your house down. If you want to kill a fire, you do not negotiate with it. You cut off the oxygen completely. Listen to me very closely. The greatest weapon you can wield against a person who thrives on chaos is your absolute, unbothered stillness. He who angers you conquers you. So, what is your execution plan? How do you starve this fire today? We are going to implement the emotional diet immediately. The next time this person attempts to provoke you, whether it is a subtle backhanded compliment, a passive-aggressive comment across the dinner table, or a blatant, outright insult, you are going to utilize the emotional flatline. You must become as boring, as unreactive, and as remarkably uninteresting as a gray rock resting on the side of the highway. When they throw the bait, you will not bite. You will let it drop to the floor. You will look at them with a completely blank expression, hold eye contact for 2 full seconds of deeply uncomfortable silence, and offer nothing but a void. If you must speak, say something entirely neutral. Say, okay. Or say, I hear your opinion. And then you physically turn your body away and direct your attention elsewhere. Write this sentence down today, memorize it, and keep it in your pocket. My peace is too expensive for your cheap games. Do not give them a single drop of oxygen. Watch how quickly they starve. Watch how quickly they panic when they realize the puppet strings have been permanently cut. Step into the 4th room of your psychological fortress. The core rule here is absolute, and it requires total ruthlessness. Access to your time, your energy, and your physical presence is a high-level privilege. It is not a fundamental human right. And when someone continuously violates the terms of that privilege, you must evict them. Why is this so hard for you to execute? The trap is your dangerous obsession with a myth called closure. This is where the masses fail, and it is where your energy slowly bleeds out. You leave the back door of your life cracked open just an inch. You tell yourself, I just need one last conversation to make them understand. Or perhaps you keep them on your social media, watching their updates, hoping to see some sign of regret. You want them to finally acknowledge the damage they did to you. The slow collapse of your self-respect happens right here, in the pathetic waiting room of false hope. You are waiting for an apology that is never coming. You keep them in your orbit, falsely believing that your proximity will eventually breed basic human decency. Think of your life, your mind, and your daily peace as an exclusive, high-security piece of real estate. You are the sole landlord of your own existence. If a destructive tenant moves into your property, smashes your windows, punches holes in the drywall, and refuses to pay rent, what do? Do you sit down with them on the ruined floor and negotiate? Do you ask them politely to stop breaking your valuable things? Do you offer them a discount on the rent they are already not paying? No. You serve them an eviction notice. You change the locks. You remove their physical access completely. Yet, for some reason, you let toxic people trash the living room of your mind every single day, and you still leave the front door wide open for them to return tomorrow. Listen to this truth and let it rattle your bones. Silence is the ultimate weapon of the self-respecting mind. You do not owe a trespasser a guided tour of your property. So, what is your execution plan? How do you serve this eviction notice today? You are going to practice the brutal, uncompromising art of the digital and physical cutoff. You must identify the person who has been living rent-free in your head, consuming your peace, and entirely revoke their access pass. Today, you unfollow, you mute, you block their number. You do not announce your departure. You do not write a dramatic, emotional farewell text message explaining why you are walking away. Doing so would just be handing them more oxygen, more leverage, and more control. You simply vanish from their radar. You become a ghost. Write this down right now and stick it to your bathroom mirror. My absence is the only closure I will ever need. If you are forced to cross paths with them at work or in a mandatory family setting, you offer them nothing more than the cold, brief courtesy you would give to a stranger standing in an elevator. No warmth. No hostility, just absolute terrifying indifference. Close the front door of your life, change the heavy steel locks, and permanently throw away the key. Welcome to the 5th level of your liberation. The core rule here is going to challenge your deepest insecurities, and it will require nerves of steel. You must become entirely comfortable being the villain in a toxic person's fabricated story. You have to let them misunderstand you. Let them paint you as the bad guy. Let them tell whoever will listen that you are cold. Let them say that you are selfish. Let them scream to the heavens that you have changed. Why does this terrify you? Why does the thought of someone speaking poorly about you keep you awake at night? Because the trap of the human ego is the desperate, clawing need to clear your name. When a manipulator realizes they can no longer control you, their immediate backup plan is to control how other people see you. They will launch a smear campaign. They will twist the narrative, playing the innocent, heartbroken victim while painting your sudden boundaries as unprovoked cruelty. And what do? You panic. You experience the slow collapse of your mental fortitude as you run from person to person, desperately trying to defend your character. You show receipts. You plead your case. You waste years of your precious life acting as your own public relations manager, fighting a war of rumors that you were never meant to fight. Think of this like walking into a rigged, corrupt courtroom. The toxic person is the judge, the jury, and the prosecutor. The guilty verdict was decided long before you even walked through the heavy wooden doors. And yet, there you are, standing at the defense table, exhausted, presenting evidence, begging a jury of gossips to see the truth. Would you believe me if I told you that participating in the trial is the very thing that gives the trial its power? If you refuse to show up to court, the entire sham falls apart. They are directing a terrible low-budget movie of their life, and they have already cast you as the antagonist. Stop auditioning for a role you do not want to play. Here is the heavy truth you must anchor your soul to right now. You do not need to defend your character to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. Let them talk behind your back. That is exactly where they belong, behind you. So, what is your execution plan? How do you dismantle their smear campaign today? You dismantle it through radical, unbothered acceptance. When word gets back to you that they are talking, and it will, your response must be absolute zero. You do not call them to argue. You do not post cryptic quotes on the internet defending your honor. You do not launch a counter-campaign. You shrug. You accept that in their warped version of reality, you are the bad guy, and you make absolute peace with that. Write this down immediately. I surrender the need to be understood by those who benefit from my destruction. Tomorrow when someone comes to you and asks about the rumors, look them dead in the eye, smile calmly and say they are entitled to their story. Then walk away. Watch how quickly a rumor dies when the subject of the rumor refuses to sweat. You are not here to win their approval. You are here to win your freedom. Welcome to the 6th phase of your transformation. This is where we forge the iron standard. The core rule here is absolute and it is non-negotiable. Respect is never debated at a round table. It is never successfully negotiated through tears. It is enforced by one action and one action only: your unwavering, absolute willingness to walk away. Why do you keep getting treated like a doormat? Have you ever stopped to audit your own inaction? The trap here is your deep hesitation to enforce real consequences. This is where the masses fail. You tell a toxic person exactly what you will not tolerate. You draw a bold line in the sand and you say, do not cross this. But the very moment they step their dirty boots right over that line, what do? You just stand there. You complain. You argue. You yell. You threaten to leave, but your feet stay planted firmly on the ground. You stay right there in the filth of their disrespect. The slow, humiliating collapse of your authority happens the exact second you complain about a behavior but continue to actively participate in the dynamic. By sticking around after the insult, you are not teaching them a lesson. You are teaching them that your boundaries are nothing more than gentle suggestions. You are teaching them that there is zero penalty for treating you like an afterthought. Think about a speed limit sign on a long, deserted stretch of highway. The sign says 65. It is painted boldly in black and white for everyone to see. But if there are never any police officers patrolling that road, and there are never any speeding tickets issued, what happens? Everyone drives 90. They fly right past it. A rule without a severe consequence is not a rule at all. It is just a piece of painted metal rotting on the side of the road. Your verbal boundaries are exactly like those metal signs. If you do not attach a severe, immediate, and painful consequence to their disrespect, they will speed right past your limits every single day of the week. They do not respect the sign. They respect the ticket. They respect the loss of the penalty. Listen to me right now and let this truth sink so deeply into your bones that it permanently changes your posture. A boundary without a consequence is nothing but a weak complaint. You will always get exactly what you tolerate. So, what is your execution plan? How do you forge this iron standard today? You stop talking and you start moving. The very next time this person violates your stated boundary, you do not issue a third warning. You do not write a long paragraph explaining why you are offended. You apply the penalty immediately. If you are on the phone and they raise their voice to you, you hang up the phone. Click. Dead silence. If you are sitting across from them at a table and they insult you, you stand up, you grab your coat, and you walk out the door. No dramatic exit speeches. No waiting for them to apologize. Just cold, hard, definitive action. Today, I want you to write this promise down on a piece of paper. My presence is the reward for their respect, and my absence is the immediate consequence of their disrespect. The moment the respect stops, the access stops. Show them the ticket. Stop pointing at the sign. Step into the seventh and final room of your new psychological fortress. This is the hardest room to walk into, but it is the one that permanently seals the gates against manipulation. The core rule of this phase is absolute. You must look at who they are right now, staring you in the face, and stop looking at who you hope they could be. You must practice radical, unflinching acceptance of the harsh reality standing right in front of you. Why do you refuse to see the truth? The trap here is the intoxicating, lethal drug of potential. You are addicted to potential. When you look at a toxic person, you do not see the one who lied to you yesterday or the one who belittled you this morning. Instead, you see the person they were for 3 brief, glorious weeks back when you first met. You see the person they could be if they just went to therapy, if they just stopped drinking, or if they just finally realized how much you sacrificed for them. The slow, devastating collapse of your entire life happens right here in this illusion. You are actively sacrificing your real, tangible present for a fantasy that does not exist anywhere except inside your own head. You are staying fiercely loyal to a mirage. You fall deeply in love with an imaginary, future version of a person, while the real, flesh and blood individual standing right in front of you continues to tear your spirit apart. Think of this delusion like walking onto a used car lot and purchasing a rusty, broken down vehicle. The tires are flat, the windshield is smashed, and the engine is completely missing. Yet, you hand over your life savings for this absolute wreckage. When people ask you why you bought a pile of scrap metal, what do you say? You tell them you do not understand. If I spend the next 10 years fixing the transmission, and if I find a brand new engine, and if I repaint the entire thing, it has the potential to be a luxury sports car. Are you out of your mind? You did not buy a sports car, you bought a wreck. And every single day you sit in that broken car, pretending you are driving somewhere fast, you are only fooling yourself. Stop buying wrecked cars and calling them long-term investments. Listen to this truth. Let it shake the delusions right out of your system. Potential is not a down payment on a person's character. It is just a ghost you are chasing through a graveyard. You cannot build a solid life on the flimsy promise of what someone might do tomorrow. So, what is your execution plan? How do you break this deep illusion today? You are going to perform a brutal, uncompromising reality check. I want you to take a blank piece of paper right now. On the front side, write down all the things you hope this person will eventually become, the apologies you hope they will offer, the massive behavioral changes you hope they will make. Look at that list. That is your fabricated fantasy. Now, turn the paper over. On the back, I want you to write down exclusively what they have actually done in the last 90 days. The cruel words they actually said. The selfish actions they actually took. The blatant disrespect they actually delivered. Stare at that second side. That is your reality. You must accept that brutal reality and throw the fantasy directly in the trash. Write this final rule down at the bottom of the page. I will no longer fund their potential with my sanity. They are showing you exactly who they are. Do yourself a favor and believe them the first time.